Welcome to this week's video. We're going to take a look at an open source synth called HELM. This is developed by a guy called Matt Tytel. This is a free piece of software, but the project is taking donations to help with the development of the program. So the synth offers 3 oscillators, one of which is a sub-octave and 2 of which are individually tunable. You have a multi-mode filter with a low and high pass, as well as a shelf, which are 12 and 24 decibel per octave switchable. You have 3 envelopes, one of which is tied to the amplitude, one for the filter and one for the modulation. You have 3 LFOs, 2 which are mono, and one of them is polyphonic, as well as a effects section with an arpeggiator. Some things that I quite like about this synth: you've got 2 tunable, individually tunable oscillators. The filter is incredibly clean, which is nice. It doesn't limit you to just lo-fi sounds. And you've got an extensive modulation options. It would have been nice to have pulse width modulation on the oscillators and perhaps be able to invert some of the envelopes, but it's not a deal breaker considering this is an open source project. So if we jump into some sounds, I've produced a couple of presets for this. So first up is a kind of piano patch, which sounds like this. So reasonably convincing. It's definitely doesn't sound too bad. Took a moment to get the hang of the filter, but once I figured it out, I was able to get quite a realistic response out of it. The second patch that I've made is a kind of standard strings, synth strings, which sounds a bit like this. So they are definitely the strings of life, but it sounds, I think it sounds pretty good as a string or pad. You could definitely do a bit more work on the response, but for a basic string patch, I don't think that's too bad. And then we've got a kind of resonant pluck, which is something that kind of goes like this. And you could dial this back a little bit to get a kind of more acoustic sound as well, which will sound more like this. Which I think is a fairly versatile sound. You can definitely get a lot of mileage with that one. And then we've got a kind of classic synth bass or kind of electric guitar bass, which goes like this. Certainly work as a synth bass. Again, this filter is incredibly aggressive. That I've tried to kind of dial it back. You saw there, it does like to peak with this resonance, but you can fiddle with it and get it to where you like it. And then the last one's a bit of fun. It's kind of a super saw from the 90s. And, you know, for ultimate effect, you can add a bit of delay to this. But the patch by default has that turned off because it might mess up your timing if you're sequencing parts and not planning on having a delay on it. So I think it's a pretty powerful synth overall. I mean, you know, it's definitely worth picking up considering it's an open source donation or free. I mean, it'd be nice to have the pulse width modulation because you could really push some of these sounds to the next level, but you know, it's not a deal breaker. Out of the box, it comes with an awful lot of presets as well, and I think some of these are artist submitted. So if you're not into sound design, there's an awful lot to get stuck into just straight out of the box. It's definitely worth picking up if you're thinking about getting Serum but don't really want to spend the money yet. This will get you some of the way to getting some of the sounds that you can get from Serum. It's definitely worth jumping into in that respect. And of course, it's an open source project, so I will leave a link to the project page, and I'll also leave a link to the preset bank that you heard demonstrated in the video. So I hope you liked the video, guys. If you did, drop a like, subscribe, and share amongst your friends. And I'll see you next week.